Back in the old days, British truck drivers could cross half of Europe with no tracking devices, no speed limiters, and no one checking every move. It was a wild, exciting time, but a sudden shift destroyed that freedom, and trucking has never been the same. The real reason this golden age will never return is more shocking than anyone expected. British manufacturers dominated home roads during the golden age. ERF produced approximately 2,000 trucks annually from its Sandbach facility in Cheshire throughout the 1970s. The company's European models, particularly the ERF B series introduced in 1974, competed directly with Continental manufacturers. The B series featured a Gardner 6 LXB engine producing 180 horsepower, considered powerful for the period. Foden, another Sandbach manufacturer, built heavy trucks from 1856 through 2006. The company's S106 model, launched in 1980, used a Cummins 14-litre engine generating up to 320 horsepower. Foden produced approximately 1,500 trucks per year at its peak. The manufacturer emphasised durability over comfort, producing vehicles designed for decades of service rather than quick replacement. Leyland Motors represented Britain's largest commercial vehicle manufacturer during this period. The company produced the Marathon model from 1973 to 1979, specifically for long-distance European routes. The Marathon featured a sleeper cab and came equipped with either Leyland's own 12.4-litre engine or options from Rolls-Royce and Cummins. Production reached approximately 3,000 units annually. However, reliability issues plagued the model, damaging Leyland's reputation among operators. Bedford, a division of Vauxhall Motors, focused on lighter trucks but maintained significant market presence. The company produced the TM series from 1974 to 1986 for medium to heavy-duty applications. Bedford manufactured approximately 15,000 commercial vehicles per year across all weight categories during the late 1970s. The TM series used Detroit diesel engines and found popularity with both large fleets and independent operators. Continental manufacturers gained British market share throughout this period. Scania's 110 and 111 series, introduced in 1968, offered superior reliability compared to British alternatives. The Scania 111 produced between 220 and 350 horsepower, depending on specification. British operators increasingly chose Scandinavian trucks for long-haul work, despite higher purchase prices. Volvo's F88 and F89 models similarly gained acceptance, with the F89 producing up to 330 horsepower from its turbocharged diesel engine. Long-haul drivers spent weeks away from home on continental runs during this era. A typical journey from Britain to Italy or Greece took 5 to 7 days each way. Drivers operated under minimal regulation compared to modern standards. The 1968 Transport Act required British drivers to maintain logbooks recording hours worked, but enforcement remained limited and manipulation was common. Truck stops formed social centres where drivers exchanged route information, mechanical advice and cargo opportunities. The famous Blue Boar services on the M1 motorway near Watford Gap became legendary among truckers. The location attracted hundreds of drivers nightly during the 1970s, becoming a hub where deals were made and stories shared. Similar establishments existed across Britain's expanding motorway network. Drivers customised their vehicles extensively during this period. Chrome accessories, additional lighting, custom paint schemes, and personalised interiors distinguished individual trucks. Some operators spent thousands of pounds on modifications that served no functional purpose beyond personal expression. The practice reflected pride in the vehicle and the profession itself. Mechanical knowledge was essential for drivers during this era. Trucks lacked the electronic diagnostics of modern vehicles. Drivers performed roadside repairs using basic tools and improvised solutions. Independent operators, often called owner-drivers, dominated British haulage during the Golden Age. These individuals or small family firms owned 1 to 5 trucks and contracted directly with manufacturers or freight brokers. Approximately 40,000 independent haulage operators existed in Britain by 1980, representing roughly 60% of all haulage businesses. The barrier to entry remained relatively low during this period. A used truck could be purchased for between £5,000 and £15,000 in the mid-1970s. Operating costs, while significant, allowed independents to compete with larger firms. Fuel cost approximately 50 pence per gallon in 1980, though it represented the single largest operating expense for haulers. Independents secured work through freight exchanges, direct relationships with manufacturers, or by registering with haulage associations. The work was irregular but profitable when available. A continental run to Italy might pay £1,000 to £1,500 in 1980, sufficient to cover costs and provide income for the driver owner. However, the irregular nature of available loads meant periods without work between jobs. Large fleet operators existed during this period, but had not achieved the dominance they would later attain. The European Union's implementation of tachograph requirements fundamentally altered trucking operations. The 1985 EU regulation mandated that all commercial vehicles over 3.5 tonnes install analogue tachographs, recording driving time, speed and rest periods. Britain implemented this requirement fully by 1987. The devices eliminated drivers' ability to manipulate paper logbooks and enforce strict limits on working hours. The regulations required drivers to rest for at least 11 hours every 24-hour period. Daily driving time was limited to 9 hours, extendable to 10 hours twice per week. Weekly driving time could not exceed 56 hours, with bi-weekly totals capped at 90 hours. These limits reduced the flexibility that had characterised earlier operations. Digital tachographs replaced analogue versions starting in 2006. The digital systems recorded data on smart cards assigned to individual drivers. The cards tracked driving patterns across different vehicles and employers. Authorities could download and analyse months of driving data during roadside inspections. The technology made violation of hours regulations far more difficult and penalties more severe. The EU's Posting of Workers Directive, implemented in 1996 and strengthened in subsequent years, required companies to pay drivers the minimum wage of the country where work was performed. This eliminated the cost advantage that Eastern European operators had enjoyed by paying drivers according to their home country's lower wage scales. However, enforcement remained inconsistent, and large operators found methods to minimise the directive's impact. Major logistics companies expanded dramatically from the 1990s onward, consolidating market share previously held by independent operators. Wincanton, Britain's largest logistics company, grew from revenues of approximately £1.5 billion in 2000 to over £5 billion by 2020. The company operates approximately 4,000 vehicles and employs over 20,000 people as of 2024. DHL Supply Chain, Eddie Stobart, XPO Logistics and other large operators captured increasing percentages of available freight. These corporations offered customers integrated services including warehousing, inventory management and multimodal transport. Independent operators running single trucks could not compete with these comprehensive offerings. The large operators achieved economies of scale that independent drivers could not match. Bulk fuel purchases, volume maintenance contracts, and optimized route planning reduced per-mile operating costs. Major companies negotiated insurance rates and vehicle purchase prices far below what individuals could access. Technology integration further advantaged large operators. Fleet management systems, GPS tracking, optimized routing software and automated dispatch systems required capital investment beyond most independent operators' means. European emission standards progressively tightened from the 1990s onward. The Euro 1 standard, implemented in 1993, established the first limits on nitrogen oxide and particulate emissions from diesel engines. Subsequent standards, Euro 2 through Euro 6, implemented approximately every 5 years, reduced allowable emissions by 90% or more compared to pre-regulation engines. Meeting these standards required expensive emissions control technology, selective catalytic reduction systems, diesel particulate filters, and exhaust gas recirculation became mandatory. The cost of a new truck increased from approximately £60,000 in 2000 to over £100,000 by 2020, largely due to emissions equipment. Older vehicles that formed the backbone of independent operators' fleets became illegal to operate in many urban areas. Low emission zones implemented in London in 2008 and subsequently in other British cities banned older vehicles from entering without paying substantial daily charges. London's ultra-low emission zone, expanded in 2021, charges £100 per day for non-compliant heavy goods vehicles. These zones made operating older trucks economically unviable for many independent operators. The number of small haulage firms in Britain declined sharply from 2000 onward. Approximately 40,000 haulage operators existed in 1980. By 2020, this number had fallen to approximately 15,000 according to industry estimates. The decline accelerated during economic downturns when tight margins eliminated operators unable to weather periods of reduced freight volumes. Many independent operators reached retirement age without successors. The combination of long hours, increasing regulation, and declining profitability made trucking less attractive to younger generations. Sons and daughters who might have inherited family haulage businesses chose alternative careers, offering better work-life balance and comparable or superior income. The 2008 financial crisis eliminated numerous small operators. Freight volumes declined sharply as manufacturing output fell. Companies that had operated profitably for decades went bankrupt within months when work disappeared. The recovery favoured large operators with diversified customer bases and financial reserves to survive the downturn. Today's truck drivers work under constant electronic monitoring. GPS systems track vehicle location continuously. Telematics monitor speed, braking, acceleration, and idling time. Cameras record driver behaviour and road conditions. Some systems use artificial intelligence to detect fatigue or distraction, alerting managers in real time to perceived safety violations. Modern trucks have become increasingly automated. Automated manual transmissions eliminated the skill required to operate unsynchronized gearboxes. Collision avoidance systems, lane departure warnings, and adaptive cruise control reduce driver control over vehicle operation. Several manufacturers have tested fully autonomous trucks on British roads, with commercial deployment expected within the next decade. The average British HGV driver is now around 55 years old and only 1% are under 25. Younger workers aren't joining, and many older drivers are nearing retirement, creating a growing shortage. Pay hasn't kept up either. The average salary of about £33,000 in 2024 doesn't match the long hours, time away from home, and heavy responsibilities. In the golden age, drivers earned more, both in money and freedom. Technology has removed the independence that once defined trucking. Algorithms now choose every route, leaving no room for map reading skill or personal judgment. Classic truck stops that once brought drivers together have vanished, replaced by plain motorway chains with no sense of community. CB radios, once essential for bonding and helping each other on the road, have disappeared, replaced by phone calls to dispatchers instead of fellow truckers.